Now this iPad Air has the same M1 chip, which is also included in last year's iPad Pro, the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, Mac Mini and even the iMac, making this the lowest M1 device that you can get right now. And with that, it blurs the lines between the prosumer iPad Pro even more. Perhaps maybe, just maybe, that the iPad Air has regained its crown for being the best iPad in Apple's tablet portfolio, at least for most people. So besides being powerful and light as a feather, let's see how it compares against the iPad Pro to help you make a purchase decision. Now, since I've done the unboxing in my YouTube Shorts and the Instagram Reels, let's dive in straight to the design and the build of this 2022 iPad Air, herein referred as the new iPad Air. Now, there's nothing bad to say about this iPad Air's design at all. And if you love the older 2022 iPad Air, then you will find this to be very great as well. Now, this is because they are essentially the same with the same all-aluminum tablet with the uniform thin bezels and flat sides like the iPad Pro. So yes, it is an Apple design through and through, and that simply means that it is an understated elegance that has superior build quality. Now, the placements of the power button, Touch ID, the speaker grill and the volume rocker is at the exact same place as its predecessor. Now, at the back, other than the 12 megapixel f1.8 camera, there is the typical minimalist Apple logo and of course the smart connector pins where you can connect accessories such as the Smart Folio and the similar Magic Keyboard as the iPad Pro lineup. And you can even use other exact accessories like the second generation Apple Pencil and the other 2020 iPad Air accessories, whether it's a hard or a soft case, screen protectors and more, since it has the same dimensions as well. Now, while the design remains the same, but Apple has introduced new colors, so if you're bored with the regular silver, which I still like, and space grey, then you can choose either the new metallic blue, pink, starlight, or go with this sexy purple color variant that I have chosen to go with. Next, let's talk about the differences between the iPad Air against the iPad Pro lineup for you to know if these specs are important for you. Now, the iPad Air has a 10.9-inch liquid retina display with a 2360 by 1640 resolution, just a tad bit smaller than the 11-inch iPad Pro. But of course, it's not using the same mini LED display as the Pro lineup, but if you were to put both displays side by side, there is a difference that can be seen. But for a regular or an average consumer, maybe not him, this would be more than enough. And no, there's no ProMotion variable refresh rate like how the Pro models had up to 120Hz, where instead it has a 60Hz laminated LCD display, which sits nicely between the non-laminated display on the entry-level iPad and the top-of-the-line iPad Pro. Now, honestly, most people won't even miss the ProMotion unless you're playing a specific type of game or just want to have that super smooth scrolling and multitasking animation, because it wouldn't matter if you are reading a static text or even watching videos, since the adaptive refresh rate goes to the similar refresh rate of that. Now yes, ProMotion is a nice thing to have for a 600 ringgit premium, but think about it, because that money can be used to get the 256GB storage variant instead of the base 64GB of storage. Now, it has 500 nits of a typical brightness compared to 600 nits on the 11-inch iPad Pro, so it is still plenty bright for a well-lit room like this or even outdoors, although you lose out on the contrasty blacks that you get in the iPad Pro's impressive mini LED display. Then color reproduction is as how you would expect, which is excellent with P3 white color gamut and True Tone technology. Now, there's no Face ID on the iPad Air like how it is available on the Pro, but instead there is the Touch ID embedded in the power button. Now, here is another one of those nice to have things, because on the flip side, the Touch ID works very well. It is fast, accurate and is easy to set up. Then the single rear camera is unchanged, still the 12 megapixel f1.8 sensor. It is a very decent shooter, of course, where the Pro has the additional ultra-wide camera and also the 3D LiDAR sensor as well. Now, although I personally almost never use a tablet's rear camera, but here are some sample shots for both the photo and the video for the rear cameras as well. Then there's also dual stereo speakers on the iPad Air compared to a quad speaker system on the Pro, but that's not to say they aren't good, because Apple has been doing some great stuff when it comes to audio with their laptops and tablets, and the iPad Air is no different. Now, the stereo speakers do offer a very good wide soundstage, good clarity and dynamic range, which is great for watching movies and playing games during my daily usage. And now, here are the things that Apple did upgrade from the 2020 version of the iPad Air. Now, let's start with the front-facing camera, because it is now using a 12-megapixel f2.4 sensor with an ultra-wide lens compared to a 7-megapixel previously, so that was a pretty huge upgrade. And it now supports the center stage feature that dynamically adjusts the frame to keep you centered during video calls. And here's where, from this practicality standpoint, I feel you and I would use this more for video calls. Then, of course, the biggest and the main upgrade for the iPad Air 2022 is the jump from the A14 Bionic chipset to this M1 chipset. And yes, this is a big deal when it comes to the performance standpoint. Now, this is because that it offers a desktop level performance and power efficiency found on Apple's desktops and laptops. And to see that in a sub 3,000 ringgit category, that was mighty impressive. Now, the M1 chipset will give you the best gaming experience if you're into gaming in games like Genshin Impact, one of the demanding mobile games, where the graphics were at full whack, up to 60 frames per second and still pretty silky smooth. Likewise with fast-paced games like Asphalt 9 and Gear Club, where it had no overheating issues during a very long gameplay for about close to an hour or two. And if you're a content creator, the M1 chipset is great for things like editing 4K video for ProRes files, or even my Blackmagic 6K ProRes video files, or LumaFusion, and of course retouching raw images in Lightroom as well. Then multitasking is super silky smooth with iPadOS split view and slide overviews working perfectly well too. Then outside the gaming and the intensive productivity tests, the iPad Air runs cool as a cucumber. And the M1 delivers a full day of battery life during a heavy usage, but if you use it lightly, you won't even need to charge this tablet for a couple of days. Now, the M1 is a massive upgrade for the iPad Air, even though most people would not need this sort of a power, but I guess it is a bit of a future-proofing, where if you plan to buy the iPad Air and keep it for about 3 or 5 years or so, and even more, this should serve you well. Then the other upgrade that you would get on this new Air is the 5G connectivity. For about 650 ringgit more, you can opt for the Wi-Fi and the cellular model like what I have, which features the same sub 6 GHz 5G as the iPad mini. But note, there is no ultra-fast millimeter 5G network support. But that being said, for us here in Malaysia, that is not going to be relevant for at least for a while. And Wi-Fi connectivity is up to Wi-Fi 6, which offers up to 2.5 times faster speed than Wi-Fi 5. Now, another thing that Apple has upgraded is down here, which is the USB-C port. Although the previous generation had a USB-C port, where it is now a USB 3.1 Gen 2 port, where in layman terms it offers a higher 10 gigabits per second performance, meaning higher data transfer speeds. So if you want to plug in an SSD or an NVMe M.2 external storage, then you'll love how it does things really fast. Yes, it is not Thunderbolt 3 like how you find it on the new iPad Pro, but still plenty fast compared to the previous generation iPad Air, which only had 5 gigabits per second on the USB-C port. Now, when it comes to the software, Apple's tablet-focused iPadOS has grown from strength to strength, with this new iPad Air ships with iPadOS version 15.4, bundled with some new tricks like the amazing Universal Control, SharePlay, and Quick Notes to name a few. And I especially love the Universal Control, which is enabled by default if you're running on iPadOS 15.4 with your Mac running on macOS Monterey 12.3. And guys, it's like magic because if you have a Mac and an iPad, the Mac's mouse and the keyboard can be also used to control the iPad, where you can cross between both the iPad and the Mac to use the same exact peripherals, where you can even drag and drop things across two devices. Now, depending on your work, the iPad Air will happily crunch through writing documents, navigating spreadsheets, editing videos and photos, social media and more, and for most, it can be a very viable laptop alternative. So in conclusion, in my humble opinion, the iPad Air fits nicely in the middle of the Apple's tablet range. For most people, the iPad Air would be a perfect tablet. Because in every way, it's a modern tablet with elegant design, superb quality, great screen with thin bezels and outstanding performance, and a fast improving operating system. But if you look closer, you'll realize that the lines are actually a little blurred when it comes to making your purchase decision, but no worries, let's have a quick look. Now, the base 64GB iPad Air with Wi-Fi sells at 2,699 ringgit compared to the baseline 11-inch 128GB iPad Pro with Wi-Fi, which costs at 3,499 ringgit. So that's about an 800 ringgit difference. While it's cheaper to start at the base, I'd recommend the 256GB iPad Air model instead, where it will set you back about 3,349 ringgit, where the similar specs with the iPad Pro would be 3,949 ringgit, which is a 600 ringgit premium. But here's where I'll throw a spanner in the works. Because how about considering a 128GB iPad Pro, which is a mere 150 ringgit difference. Now yes, you'll get half the storage, but think about it. You'll gain a Pro's Liquid Retina XDR display, a LiDAR camera, and Thunderbolt 3 among other things. So if these things matter to you, then this could be a very viable option. Or you can just forget what I said and just get the base 64GB iPad Air and make up for the lack of physical storage with iCloud storage and also save some money, where 50GB is just 3 ringgit and 90 cents per month, and the sweet spot is 200GB, which is just 11 ringgit and 90 cents per month. And for storage hungry people like me, the 2TB option is only 39 ringgit and 90 cents. So yeah, have a think about it and let me know your feedback in the comment section below, which option that you would go for. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful in making your purchase decision. And speaking of the iPad Pro, check out my full video review of that over here, and the best affordable iPhone yet, my review of the iPhone SE 2022 over here.